Good morning, everybody. After a little bit of technical difficulty, we're finally on live and getting everything going. So
yay!
I know, I'm like, oh goodness. I'm really, really excited to have Jayne here. I met her a couple of years ago, probably at a conference. Just love her personality, love her energy. I love her approach, because a lot of this woo-woo stuff that we talk about, we need that really down to earth, like, let's get serious and scientific and see how does this work, right? So that was how I was connected to her. And I'm super excited, Jayne, to have you here. I'll let you explain, we can go on with all the really business style introduction, but who cares about all of that? I just want to get to know you as a girlfriend. Let's talk and let's just chat and find out what we can do.
Take questions from anybody too.
Yeah. So we'll open for questions. I'm back. I'm on now where I can see chat. So for those of you that aren't sure or how to use this or haven't been on Zoom before, at the bottom, there's a chat button, and then you can type questions into the side of the screen. And I want you to tell us, Jayne, really kind of what you do. But one thing I'm really curious about, because I came from a corporate background as well, so I'd love to know how the corporate setting and your corporate background falls into what you're doing now.
Okay, so it does in my coaching.
Oh, definitely. Very good. Okay.
Just because I've always coached, always been a mentor, always been able to solve problems, helping others. So that's where my corporate and a lot of my clients are employees and managers and business owners. So it comes into play to some degree in every coaching session.
Very good.
And I think if it's okay, one of the things that people first ask, and I think everybody knows this is about scientific hand analysis, right? So making that leap from an MBA corporate background to scientific hand analysis is what intrigues a lot of people. So if it's okay, I'd like to briefly explain how that happened. Because people are like, well, how did you get to scientific hand analysis? And it was because I was, at that time, unbeknownst to me, my own best client. In other words, I was not happy in my work. And I had 3 previous careers, and each one lasted a little bit longer. But after a few years in each, I would just get bored, and I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up, which made me feel stupid because all my friends knew what they wanted to do. So I just followed my nose and got into business because I thought at least I'd make some money, and was successful and in sales and marketing, corporate world after a while. So I went to a small company where I called on the corporate world as head of sales and marketing. That was fun for a longer period of time, but again, hit that same wall of just knowing there was something else, something was missing, and I wasn't fulfilled. I knew there was something else I was supposed to be doing, but I had no idea what. And nothing else helped me. I tried, career coaches, maybe I didn't find the right one, but read the books, all that. I still was just lost. And then I was a professional speaker. That lasted a long time. And as I look back, now that I know what's in my hands, it lasted longer because I was using more of my natural gifts and was closer to purpose. So, but even then, after 10 to 12 years, I was just, oh no, there's something else. Oh no, here I am again at this boredom, unfulfilled wall. So I really started searching and started Googling, how do I find my life purpose? Because I just knew, Jennifer, that the articulation of that was what I was missing.
I love that you're talking about that, because I feel like every woman can relate to that on some level. Like, even in my own journey, I know that's how I got to where I'm at right now, is because something was missing. Right?
Yeah.
And you don't know what. You're like, I don't even know what it is, what I'm missing. Like, and maybe there's a little guilt because you're like, I should be happy and I should, feel like this is okay. And I should just do what you're supposed to do, which is go work and, do that. But I love that you're saying that. And I love that you found the answers in what you're doing.
Well, thank you. It took some really focused work, it's years, but, and I think what people do when they feel stupid is that they feel they should be able to figure it out themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to do that alone. Some people can, but most people aren't on purpose. Anyway, so I started Googling and I found ran across a headline for a teleseminar. And this was several months into my Googling journey. And the headline read, "Discover Your Innate Life Purpose." And I was like, oh,
there it is.
So I click on it and I saw hand analysis, and I was like, darn it, I'm serious here. You know, that would be fun. And I know that there are people really good at that, but I want my purpose. And I know that's hard to get. So I kept reading, and then I saw the word scientific. And that one word put aside my anal MBA skepticism for the moment. So I listened to the teleseminar, and it made sense. And I really wanted my purpose. So I got a hand analysis, and it changed my life. I mean, it didn't say you're supposed to be a scientific hand analyst. It's not a job description. That would be cuckoo. But I was so inspired, and it explained everything, the decisions I'd made, why I was unhappy, the patterns in my life, who I was. I mean, and I had been on a personal growth path for years, and I got so much more in that 1 hour than all those years put together. And it made me understand why, what made me tick and what I needed to do to figure it out, because it's actionable. So I started taking action on the information, and I knew it was right. It all resonated, even things I'd never thought of. Started taking action, and with a few months got led to the right people that could help me. And within a few more months, I was on it. I knew it. It was like, oh my God, I was so inspired and on fire with this information before I even knew I wanted to do it. I want to make people feel that way. That's what I want to do, is help people feel that inspiration and validation and clarity and direction that can change their life before they even change their career. If that's what's required. It's not always required. But
so yeah, and so all of that is like so fantastic, and I'm kind of intrigued with the science behind it.
yeah, the science, the primary element of the science is that the lines in your hands actually mimic the neural pathways in your brain.
Oh, very cool.
Neurologists are getting involved in this. The gentleman that created the system, his name is Richard Unger, spent 40 years, talk about anal, 40 years putting this database together and analyzed over 30,000 hands, and wrote a book about a big element of it, the fingerprints, although we look at everything. But he wrote a book about it. It's called Life Prints. And the foreword to that book was written by the head of neurosurgery, so by a neurosurgeon at Stanford, who started using this information with his patients. So it's enormously accurate, enough so that Forbes wrote an article about me and my work. I met a reporter at a conference and did a hand analysis for her, and it blew her mind, like it does everybody. So she wrote an article about it.
I remember when I met you, that was one of the things I thought, now, how did this palm reader get into Forbes magazine? I'm like, what was going on? Which is another reason why I was so intrigued with all of it, because it's so funny. Like, I have a friend of mine, and her husband calls me a hybrid. He goes, because you're so weird, because, I'm, speaking in that woo-woo realm and everything. He goes, yeah, you could turn right around and go lead a business conference,
right,
in a corporate America. And I'm like, well, yeah, because we need to learn how to blend all of this together. So that was one of the things I was really intrigued with when I first met you. Then the other part was, it was amazing to me how much it reveals about somebody just in their handprint.
Yep. It's pretty much everything about who you are and why you're here. I mean, I really think Spirit, Source, God, whatever your word is, tries so hard to help us make the difference that our soul has agreed to make, mm-hmm, and to give us every possible hint we can. So what has he done? Put a blueprint in our hands.
In your hands. I know, it's amazing to me too. I agree with that 100%, that God gives us all these clues everywhere, right? And he gives us, yep, all these tools everywhere. Yep. All of these things on this earth are here to help us. Even, the astrology, if you really get down to it, there's science behind that as well.
It's and it's science of the planets.
Yeah. And its basis is in religion. Yeah. Like the Vatican is what has all the old.
And numerology is science of numbers.
I know, it's all like all of these little tools and all of these little clues are just sprinkled out everywhere. And it's just a matter of us finding them, and then finding the one that works for us, and then finding out what we need to say. The one thing that I love is living on purpose is so important. So how do you find the cues to that?
The cues?
The cues, like in
what do I look for in the hands?
Yeah.
So, I should probably explain some of the basics. The foundation of the purpose is in the fingerprint system. And the fingerprints are formed in utero, 14 to 16 weeks, which, by the way, is when the woo-woo people say that's when the
Right.
soul enters the
Comes
embryo.
in.
So interesting that your soul brings in your purpose and your greatest lesson that your soul has decided it wants to learn in this lifetime. And sort of the school, which is the foundation of who you are. It's some of your natural skills and talents, and also some of the learning and training you need in order to fulfill your purpose. So the fingerprints reveal the core of your purpose. They reveal your life school and your life lesson, which is the biggie. It's the biggest obstacle to people living more consistently on purpose. It's the biggest tripping point that shows up you know how patterns show up in your life over and over and over. They might look different, but you know it's the same shit, right?
Exactly.
That's your life lesson. Yeah. So all that comes from the fingerprints. And I don't want to get into too much because it'll be too much detail, but there's 4 categories of fingerprints. And under each category, there's several subtypes of prints. Each type of print, the way a fingerprint might show up, has been assigned a numerical ranking based on the complexity of the print. It's not that one's more important than another. And the highest ranking fingerprint, or prints if there's more than one tied, that becomes the core of your life purpose. And by the way, more than half my clients have fingerprints in their palms and they don't even know it. And sometimes that's purpose. It may not even be on a fingertip, you know. All right, there was something I was going to say and I didn't want to interrupt myself, but now I forgot what it was. It'll come back. So purpose, I don't know. It'll come back.
Categories of fingerprints. Does it mean something different if it's in their palm instead of on their fingertips?
Any location, the location of a print or of a marking determines what it means.
That's amazing.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, some of the other basics are that. So that means, by the way, that core of your purpose, your lesson in your school will never change. Where you are student to master path can change. So let me explain that for a moment. Every marking has both ends of the spectrum, master path and student path. Master path feels good. It's going with the flow. The more master paths you're on, the easier it is to live in alignment with your purpose, which in my expert opinion is the only way to feel that more consistent joy and meaning in your life. And meaning is what all the books say about purpose and happiness. That's how you get happy, is to have meaning in your life. It's not money, it's not success, not even love. So the student path and every marking has one, doesn't feel good. It's all the yucky feelings in life. Feeling bored, overwhelmed, confused, sad, frustrated, procrastinating, angry, depressed, relationship stuff, money stuff, all that are student paths. The more student paths we're on, the more challenging it is to live in alignment with purpose, and the more complicated our life is going to be. And the kicker is that nobody can be on the master path of any marking 100% of the time. We're humans, right? We're works in progress.
Right.
That would be the objective, you know, to get on the master path as much as possible. And that's what's so empowering about this work, because you learn what your master paths look like, so you know what to strive for, and then also what your student paths look like, so you can be more aware when you're on them, and that gives you the power to do something about it and take action. So did I get off track now? Because I wanted to explain master and student path. Anyway, that's a big piece of this work. It's in my hands to get off track. And
I love it because it's so true. And the one thing that's coming to my mind as I'm listening to this part is, and it's almost like, because sometimes you are the teacher and then sometimes you are the student again. It's like you can ebb and flow through that throughout your life.
Oh, so yeah.
That shows up as well.
Yes. And actually, like life lesson, it's such a big piece. You'll be on the student path. You'll be in your life lesson, which is like the big kahuna student path in your hands every day, to some degree.
Yeah.
So the key is just recognize it and take a little step to move off of it temporarily. If you want, It's up to you.
Right.
You know,
Right.
we're the ones that have to decide to take action. And that's what I did, by the way, when I got my hand analysis. I started taking action, little steps on my life lesson. And then just clarity started coming. I got led to the right people. Doors started opening, you know,
So what
so.
kind of life lessons show up? I'm just curious to see if it's similar with like some of the things that come up from like when I'm working with clients. Is there like
Okay,
a
so
theme of life lessons that usually show
there's a
up?
whole bunch. There's a
Okay.
whole bunch. And it depends on, you know, whether you just have one print as a life lesson. Some people have 10.
Oh, wow.
You know, it's all different. Sometimes the school is your life lesson, which is not common, but it's not rare either. It's kind of in the middle. So some of the examples of a possible life lesson could be fear of rejection. You know,
Okay.
you let that stop you. Um, Power issues, not really owning your power out in the world, not living your passions, thinking you don't deserve it. It could be self-worth issues, and those show up differently depending on which finger is involved. It can show up as time and money issues, you know, resources, not valuing your worth out in the world,
Right. Right.
getting paid what you're worth. And then another self-worth could be showing up as guilt
Mm-hmm.
and issues, feeling guilty about taking time for yourself because you don't think you deserve it is what's really underneath that. And
Right.
then people with that life lesson often are very challenged to figure out what their ideal work is,
Mm-hmm.
what we mean by niche issues. But there's communication ones, there's trust ones, you know, there's
See, I love,
intuition ones.
yeah, I love that because again, it's the same thing. Like the one thing that I love that's showing up right now is there's more people talking about how to get to the soul purpose, how to get to where we love ourselves, it's coming out there in so many different ways. And I love that there's so many different ways to find that.
Yep.
And the ones that resonate with you are like, it's so great because there's so many different ways to reach people with the same kind of message, but a different tool.
Yes,
And different tools work for different people. You know what I mean?
that's right.
It's so exciting to me because I'm sitting here getting chills going, oh my gosh, somebody that doesn't resonate with me might resonate with Jayne. And then we can meet, you know, we can get more people and more
And
women
vice
who are
versa.
empowered. And yeah, I'm
You
like,
know,
it's so
it's a good
exciting to
point,
me now.
Jennifer. Sorry, it's a good point. It's like ski lessons. You know, the first instructor, you just sort of don't get this concept he's trying to teach. And then his second one articulates it differently. You're like, oh, now
That's
I
right.
get it.
Yeah,
Now
exactly.
that makes sense what they said.
Yeah, I
So,
love that. It literally lights me up. It makes me so happy that because, you know, I use neurolinguistic programming a lot. So I can usually find that whatever their limiting belief is, you know, which is part of what you're talking about with life lessons based on
mhm.
certain words that they say. And
Yeah.
so like based on certain words, whatever comes out of their mouth, I'm like, ooh, if I say this is your limiting belief, how does that resonate? So it's the same thing, only you're going to be able to say, look, right here in your hand, it says this. How does that
Yeah.
resonate with you? And they'll, you know, they
Yeah.
still, it makes me so excited. Anyway.
Yeah. And then then I do an expanded version of your purpose. Now, even with the core, so I think there's like 14 or 15 possible places where a fingerprint could be
Okay.
in your hand. So any combination of those. So what's that? I don't know how to do the math. That's more than 15,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like 15 squared or something. Then to do an expanded version, I add keywords from any gift markings that I see. So gift markings are a really important piece as well for several reasons. First of all, they are an indication of extra potential talent in different areas. They're important because if you take every human on the planet, and I mean indigenous tribes,
Everybody.
every human, far more than half do not have a gift marking. Doesn't mean they can't be amazing people.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have one, it's a big deal because anything unusual or rare in hand analysis automatically makes it important. So if you have one, it's a big deal. If you have more than one, it's a bigger deal. Now I'm going to contradict myself.
Mm-hmm.
I attract people with gift markings. So I have analyzed over 1,600 people, only 3 didn't have gift markings, and 2 of them were very high-performing, successful CEOs. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have a gift marking to be amazing.
Right.
But if you do, they're a big deal. The second reason they're important is because they help explain the how. The gifts you have to help you make the difference you're meant to make in the world by fulfilling your purpose. And there's a third reason they're important too. They also, everything, they have student paths as well. And the student paths of gift markings have, shall I say, deliver a bigger kick. They're wake-up calls. To me, it's divine looking down and saying, okay, Jennifer, you got this gift. And by the way, when you have a gift marking, you have a sole requirement to use that gift. So if you're not using it, divine is going to look down and say, hey, Jennifer, you made this agreement to use this gift. You're not using it. I'm going to give you a little poke to get your attention. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to dial it up to a shove.
Yeah.
And girl, if that doesn't get you using that gift, I'm pulling out a cosmic 2x4 and wham. So people that have multiple gift markings, I mean, they're kind of like a double-edged sword. They do mean you're gifted.
But there's a lesson.
There's life complications because nobody's on the master path 100% of the time.
Right.
But the more you use the gift, the fewer the complications. And you're gifted, so they wouldn't impact you as much as they might somebody who's not as gifted. So it just depends. And the more gift markings, pretty much the more complications you've had in your life. And it doesn't mean a bad life.
Right.
It just means if you add up, if you have multiple gift markings and you add up the obstacles you have faced, your list is likely longer than the average person. So
it's interesting, for sure. Just out of curiosity, do scars impact, or what does that mean? I don't know why I have this scar on my finger and I keep thinking I should ask about it. So I'm just gonna.
Was that right or left hand?
It's my left hand.
Okay, underneath your index finger?
It's right on the, right through the middle.
Okay.
I fell in a pop bottle when I was a kid on a 2-seated bike.
All right. So anytime you injure your hand or a mole pops up or something like that, it's that area of your hand, whatever that means, trying to get your attention.
Okay.
Let you know. Now you were 2, but still.
No, I was 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was on a 2-seated bike, and this will tell you how old I am. Pop bottles were still glass back then.
Whoa.
And so we were on a 2-seated bike, and my friend wanted to drive. And so I was in the back where you have no control, and she didn't know how to stop, and she just got off. And when I went down, the pop bottle was in my hand. And so I was curious, like I had never even really thought about that before. And I'm like, I wonder, I keep hearing to ask about it. So I'm curious.
Well, it was like heads up to you, even at 10, that one of your challenges, and you've worked through it now, was going to be really living your passions. So because this is personal power.
Oh, okay.
So it's about standing in your own personal power and advocating for yourself to know what your desires and passions are and live them, bring them into your life and your work, and to know at a deep level, I have goosebumps, that you deserve that. Because the student path of that would be not even knowing what your desires and passions are, or maybe knowing what they are, but just thinking they're a pipe dream. Like, well, who gets to do that? I don't deserve that. I'm not good enough. I've been taught that they're silly and frivolous, that they're really not important. You're supposed to work your ass off and make money. But if, I don't know what your purpose is or anything, but that's what was trying to get your attention, was your personal power. And often, somebody that has that as a life lesson, and I don't have any idea what your life lesson is, but when not living your passions is a life lesson, it's called victimization. And often, not always, people that have that as an important marking, something happened when they were young that was hurtful. And because they were young, they felt it was their fault, which of course it wasn't.
Right.
But they felt shame. So they numb out to avoid feeling that shame. But guess what else gets numbed out? Their desires and passions. So
it's really interesting. I'll be really vulnerable here and tell you what's coming up and what is going on. So I've always been intuitive, and I've always been like, I would know, even with this bike ride, I knew I shouldn't let her ride it, but I was always told I was too bossy.
No.
Because I would just get a gut feeling and I'd be like, you shouldn't do that. You know,
Yep.
inevitably something, you know, like it was the psychic stuff, which is still the word it's so funny that I finally called myself a Christian psychic because I'm terrified of people judging me for being psychic.
Right.
But even back then, as young as I was, and when I was younger, I would be told, you know, you're too bossy, quit telling, you know what I mean? And I'm like, it was just a feeling I had. And so it's interesting that, because I remember thinking I probably shouldn't let her drive, but I had been getting scolded for being too bossy.
Being yourself.
And being, because everybody thought I wanted to be controlling. It wasn't about being controlling. It's just I would know if something was going to happen. You know what I mean?
So you were actually in your power,
Mm-hmm.
and then you got that shut down. So your personal power's going, hey, don't let him do that.
Yeah.
Thus you cut your finger.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. And I mean, it went clear to the bone.
I bet.
It was bad. So very, very interesting. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic. And
That's all right. These
really
stories
where I was
what
going,
makes things interesting.
yeah, my guides were like, you got to ask about your finger. And I'm like, that's so weird to me.
I got lots of stories I could share. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's so incredible. Is there anything like particularly like for somebody on the call that you could just say, you know, if there's this one thing that would be easy for somebody to look at that would maybe help them a little bit? Or is it really just too intricate?
You mean right now on the call, if they could do like this?
Yeah.
Oh, I could probably see heart lines or something, or, you know, if there's a very strong, but before I forget, this is what I remembered oh, darn it, I lost it again. Good Lord, what is going on with my brain?
It's the energy. No, it's the energy right now.
I think it's coming out of my eye because something went bing. Darn it, because it was really important. I know that one thing I wanted to mention is that when somebody says palm reading, it's like the hair on the back of my neck goes up because
I know
it's so important for people to know that it's scientific and so very accurate and not dependent at all on somebody's intuitive level.
Right.
And there's no predictions to it, you know, other than I'll always say, I don't care how good your life is now. If you take action on the information in a hand analysis, it will only get better. Now there was something else too, and I can't remember what it was. So we were talking about telling stories. It's gone.
Okay, it'll come back around.
What a space head today.
No, it's literally the energy today. So it's kind of that. Just deal with it.
Cool.
Does anybody else have questions? Do you guys want to open up? Is that a good time yet, or should we?
Well, the couple things that I would want people to know in case they're wondering. You know, I mentioned to a couple people who are on that I do this by hand print.
I love
that.
See
how much detail you can see.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't do it in person. I have clients as far away as Singapore, and send out handprint kits, and they take their prints and mail them to me, and then we set up a Zoom call just like this, where I can bring up the prints and show you the markings I'm talking about. So it's really fascinating. Awesome. Yeah, I just love this. I love talking about it. I'm so blessed that I found this. I'm so passionate about it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm still trying to go back and remember the string I was trying to connect.
Well, and I know at the very end, we'll make sure that everybody knows how to connect with you. And I think you may have a special offer. So
I always have a special offer.
Yeah, we'll get to that at the end, get to the juicy part at the end.
Okay.
But what I was asking is, like, is there anything that maybe you could just say, here, look here, and if I see it, then I would know what that was?
Oh, yeah. So let's say if you look at my hand, so this top horizontal line always starts under the pinky.
Okay.
It's your heart line. It's your relationship style. Where it ends tells me your relationship style, how you communicate in relationship, how you express love and affection, any kind of relationship, how you want love and affection expressed to you. Okay. So if you look at mine, it ends.
Left.
It doesn't matter.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Either one. Mine ends right here. So, and it's got a little bit of a curve to it.
Okay.
And just one of the general rules is that the more curve in the line, the more outwardly emotive you are, the more emotion you use in whatever that line means. The straighter the line, the more logical, the more analytical.
Okay.
So I have a heart line. Has everybody found their heart line?
Mm.
You know, if not, just put a question mark.
Did they match?
Sometimes, sometimes not.
Okay.
There's 4 basic types. And before
I'm a
somebody
little
says,
afraid to be quite this vulnerable.
oh, it's just your heart line, it's only about, I don't know, 2% of who you are. But it's an important piece because it helps with relationships.
Yeah.
So if yours ends like mine, underneath the middle finger or just past,
Okay.
whether it's straight or curved,
Okay.
it's called a hermit.
Okay.
And what that means is that you keep your deepest feelings close in until you trust.
Mm-hmm.
Can be very loyal, sometimes to a fault. Alone time is not just enjoyable, it's required to be the best you can be. Your freedom is so very important. You do not want to be squished, obligated, possessed, clung to at all if you've got a lot of hermit in your hands. On the master path, hermits have very high integrity, huge reliability, and overall, okay, so, and in relationship, they can be romantic, but they're not super mushy because they're not that outwardly emotive, right? And their favorite choice of expressing love and affection would be acts of service, doing things. Student path is trust issues, especially when somebody doesn't do what they said they were going to do, because hermits can't relate to that. They just don't get it. Somebody flakes out, they're like, what?
What? How does that happen? Yeah.
And this taught me, it explained so much about choices in my life. For example, in high school, when boyfriends started getting clingy, gone. And I thought something was wrong with me because all the other girls loved it when their boyfriends were all possessive and stuff. And I was like, oh, you know, and I'm like, oh my God, it made so much sense. I'm not a cuckoo, you know, I'm just a hermit. And it doesn't mean I don't like people. You can tell I love people. So it's just, you know, it's a true introvert. I need to re-energize alone. That's part of it as well. Now, my other hand, well, actually on both, but anyway, let me just use this as an example. If your heart line starts here and goes all the way to your index finger or close to it, just inside, sort of a gentle curve all the way up, that's called a big heart. And I have pieces of big heart in both hands. And since I started this work, both of my hermits have grown to big hearts, but I still have a lot of hermit because that's what you can see. You know, if I look at it like this in the right light, I can see it's grown all the way up. But when I go like this, all you see is that it ends here, right? So the depth and visual impact of markings make a difference as well.
That's
because
amazing.
of energy. So a big heart, does anybody think they have a big heart? Goes all the way to their index finger? Yes, Dana does. So a big heart is all about love and affection and nurturing and helping people. That's the big energy.
Helping people makes sense for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, well, I don't know Dana, but
Yeah.
and and there can be mushy, you know, express love every which way but loose. And the primary student path is 2 pieces. One, overgiving, because they so much want to help others, and that's not good for us to overgive. And I'm, by the way, I'm giving you teeny top line.
Right.
I could go 10 minutes, 15 minutes on each one. And the other student path is being receiving challenged. You know, when somebody says, Dana, can I help you? No, I got it. Or not asking for help enough.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not only a purpose coach, I'm a law of attraction coach. Remember, like attracts like. So if you receive and say, yes, thank you, I'd appreciate that, the universe is going to send you more to receive.
Right.
So anyway, so there's a couple of the heart line types. Does that help? You want me to keep going?
No, it's fun. I mean, it's so fun. I love it. I know we got started a little bit late, so we're at a quarter till. Do we need to start wrapping it up? Because I don't want to overextend your time since we had the technical issues in the beginning and got started a little late.
I'm so groovy. I could go forever. So you make that. When we wrap it up, what's wrapping it up look like? I mean, I thought this would be going until the top of the hour.
Okay, good. All right, so, does anybody have any, so we're kind of looking at, you went over a little bit of the basics. I kind of want to go a little bit more into living on purpose and why it's important.
Okay.
Because I think we all kind of know that on the call, but I think it's one of those things you can't hear enough.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Well, and here's the thing too, you know it if you're not, right? Because something's not working. in your life. You know, it's just not only just feeling like something's missing. You're lucky if that's all you feel. Because all those student paths are screaming, and even purpose has a student path. So it's so important because it matters to health, to relationships, to your joy and fulfillment, because really making the difference you're meant to make is what it's all about. And there's, you know, I'll use myself as an example. I was craving to make a difference, but I couldn't figure out how I wanted to do that. And the normal ways, the common ways that people make a difference, I just could not get interested in, like going to help feed the homeless. And it made me feel like a jerk.
Right.
I'm like, why don't I want to do this? Because they need it. And I would a couple of times, you know, and it was fine and I enjoyed it, but it was not fulfilling to me. So I'm like, oh, I'm such an asshole. You know, why don't I want to do this?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Word in front of the baby.
Oh, that's okay. Baby.
Oh, I didn't know there was a baby. Sorry, Elisa. Anyway, I have the potty mark in my hand.
I was going to say, I need to know if I have that one, because that bad word.
There's not one. I'm just kidding. I do have a potty mouth. By the way, they have done research showing that people who swear are trusted more than people who don't.
Oh, really?
Well, they feel they're being authentic.
Yeah.
Instead of going, oh, excuse my French.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
I try to
yeah, being on purpose.
Slip out sometimes.
Yeah, being on purpose. I think, you know, it's what I'm all about. You know, I've dedicated my life to it, to help people do that, because I feel it's so very important to all the big aspects of our life.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying that specifically with yourself about that feeling of, oh, I feel guilty that I'm not doing this. Like, I feel like I should want to do this, because that's very, very similar to me. Like from the outside looking in, I should have been, you know, it was like the American dream, right? Like the kid, the house, the husband, the cars, whatever. And it was all there, and I loved every bit of it. It wasn't that I didn't love that part of my life. It's just there was something else that just wasn't right. Like, I didn't feel right in my job. I didn't feel, and I wanted to be grateful for my job. I should have been. Everybody, you know what I mean? Like, so many people were struggling there for a while, and all of these things. And I'm like, what is wrong with me that I can't just be happy? Right. And
I know,
exactly because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. Like, I wasn't being the person that I'm supposed to be. And for me specifically, that's that psychic piece, right? Like trying to shove that down and not really be who I am. So the one thing that I like to tell people is, it doesn't matter if you feel like you want to be a brain surgeon or a bartender, as long as it makes your heart happy and you're excited to do your job, like that's where the joy comes in.
And a lot of fear comes up. I mean, it is scary to get on purpose.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't necessarily have to dump everything in your life, right? I did, but I was really being called. It can be, but it is going to feel like you're stepping off a cliff. I mean, sometimes it's a little cliff and sometimes it's a big one. And I tell people, you just have to trust that the parachute will open, and it will, but you will pee your pants on the way down.
Right.
Because it's scary. But you got to wash a machine.
Do you ever find the other side of it where, like, I worked specifically with this one client, and this one stands out in my mind right now for some reason. So I always go with what comes up because I feel like I'm supposed to say that. Do you ever have somebody who feels like, they've been told they're supposed to be so much more, and then their purpose really is so simple and so easy, and it's something they already do already, but they're just not fully in it and fully enjoying it? Because one client I had, it was like, I said, well, that is your purpose, like everything. And she's like, that's it? And I'm like, why does it have to be bigger than that? Like what you're doing is amazing. And once she had permission to allow that to be what it was, she fully blossomed into it, and it became so much more.
So there's two aspects to what you said. First of all, usually people feel their purpose is really big when they get it through hand analysis. Because people don't want a little purpose. That's why they feel that way. If they're not on it particularly, they feel like it's really big. But nobody has a purpose they're not capable of fulfilling. No, they may choose not to, but they certainly have the capability to do that. And the other piece is, it's that validation. So I just got a testimonial yesterday by email from somebody that I did an analysis for last week. And she was pretty much on purpose, but was questioning it. You know, we question ourselves so much, and she loves to speak. And it was all over in her hands, you know, to do that. And I said, just if you love that, go for it. That's it.
Just
And
go all in.
within a week, she goes, I suspected that, but I just couldn't quite let go into it. And I was holding myself back, although I didn't know it. And that, she used the words validation, permission, and confirmation. She said within a week, she secured a keynote for 10 grand.
That's amazing.
She was just like on cloud 9.
Right.
So that's what happens when you really own it, and particularly your gifts. And usually you're using most of your gifts, and it's just so natural. You know, you're not owning that you're gifted.
Right. Well, and that's this client that I'm talking about, like, to her, she felt like her purpose was small. And to me, I'm like, I can never do what you do. Right. To me, it was huge. I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I couldn't.
Yeah.
So I think it comes back to that brain surgeon, bartender, doesn't matter. If you're gifted to that and it's something that you do in an amazing fashion, do it.
Yep. And if it lights you up, that's the deal.
Yeah.
You know, if somebody's, if they don't love their life and their work, they're off somewhere.
Yeah. And don't you think when they find that, they do light up?
Well, sure, because they're so inspired, but they got to take action.
Right.
You know, things just don't change just because you get the information.
Right.
You got to take action.
Action steps. Yep.
So, and that's sometimes where my coaching comes in, and not even half my clients, my hand analysis clients, use or need coaching.
Right.
But I did, right? I didn't know what it looked like, and I couldn't figure it out. I knew it was right, but it's not a job description. And thank God we have options. You know, there's a lot of different ways that we can express our purpose. We're meant to do it in the way that we love.
Right.
And that lights us up. And I just got to the right person that could really help me. So that's why I do the purpose coaching as well.
That's awesome. All right. So now we've got about 10 more minutes. So let's go ahead and open it up. Does anybody have questions? Like, do you guys want to we'll open it up and you can ask whatever you want to ask. If so, you can unmute yourself, or I can unmute you if you need me to do that as well.
Or you could put it in chat too.
And I do have the chat bar open as well too. So if you need to chat, you can type it in the chat and I can ask the question for you.
Dana has asked something there on chat.
What does the M mean on the bottom of each palm?
Nothing.
Okay.
Because not everybody has that. So it depends. It's just the way that your mostly vertical lines happen to cross. And I've had that question before, Dana, so you're not the only one. But it's probably, if it's at the bottom of your palm, it's going to bring in fate lines, which is how you approach work and job and projects and career. Probably brings in a piece of your lifeline, which is this big line that circles the fleshy base of your thumb. And by the way, the length of your lifeline has nothing to do with how long you're going to live. Sorry, I had to leave that little dramatic pause.
Yeah, leave that little pause. I'm still wondering, like, why they don't match. Okay, so here's my OCD coming out.
Because you're different.
Should line up, and it should be.
No. The right hand generally is what you show out to the world.
Okay.
Business stuff.
Okay.
You know, outer things, what people see.
Okay.
Left hand generally is inner stuff, family, tight-knit community.
Okay.
Stuff. So it would make sense they're different, right?
Okay. I mean, they're kind of similar, but they're not.
Yeah, trust me, there's going to be a lot of different information.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Looks like there's another question in chat, maybe.
No, it's nope. Just anybody else? Alyssa, do you want to come? Do you have a question? I know Chris is on her phone. If anybody wants to unmute, you can unmute and ask a question.
Lynn, what is the process and the cost? Okay. Well,
so
today.
We'll get into the special offer.
Right. So the process is when somebody buys a hand analysis, I mail them or hand them, if I'm right there, a hand printing kit, which is a big white envelope and it's got everything you need. You take your prints, mail them back to me because usually scanning isn't crisp enough. And then I make sure they're clear, which they are 99.9% of the time. And then I email you and say, go to this calendar link, schedule 2 appointments. You get an hour for the analysis on Zoom. You get the recording, and you get a 3 to 4 page summary report. And also schedule a 30-minute second appointment a week or 2 later to give you time to watch the first recording, because there's a lot of information coming at you, and sometimes questions pop up later, or you want to go into more depth, or help with integrating the information and helping you identify which next steps are going to impact you and benefit you the most. So you schedule those 2 appointments, and the second call is recorded as well, and you get that recording too. So it's a lot of stuff. Retail, if somebody goes to my website, the price is $497. Others charge 3 times that. And I'm a master hand analyst, by the way. There is no higher certification. And I'm teaching it now. So for this, when I speak, when I do webinars, that is the lowest I ever offer it. And it's a big discount, $200 off that.
Oh, nice.
So $297.
Okay.
But there is a time limit because I reward action. So somebody has to get to me by the end of the day.
Okay.
And they can email me. Please don't put me on your list. Jayne, unless I want to. Then I'm going to go, okay. Jayne at purposewisdom.com.
Okay.
And you can go to my website. There's lots more information on my website at Purpose Wisdom, which will switch to Precision Wisdom once you put that in there, but that's okay. Too much information. purposewisdom.com. So I hope did that answer your question, Lynn, on process and cost? Lynn, did that answer your question?
I think she's trying to type. It looks like she's
trying
to type it in. And just so you guys know, everybody that's on the call today will get a replay. So I'll email you a link to watch the replay. And then also, and she said, yes, thank you much. And then also I'll make sure that all of Jayne's information is in there as well. So I'll give you her website and her email, so that if you want to reach out to her, you can. I'm hoping that we can use this later. I would really like to put this on YouTube at some point. So we'll know that if you were not on the live video, then that's not a valid.
Yeah. I mean, once it gets out there, then I have no idea. I mean, I'm not sure how to handle that. If you have any suggestions, I would.
If you're not on the call live and you're watching a replay, just email her and tell her that you've seen the replay, and you can take it from there. We'll say that it's not valid.
Right. I know what I'll do. Right. Just came to me. So, because I want to reward people for showing up live. So they get the best price.
Okay.
Afterwards, what I would honor for your listeners would be $50 more. So $347.
Okay. Perfect. That's fantastic.
So it's still a great deal.
Yeah.
$150 off.
So everybody that's on the call live will get the emailed replay, and then all of the information for Jayne. And then if you happen to see it on YouTube, because I just feel like everything today was so good, and I love, love, love that it's another thing that validates all of these things that we're working towards, right? So knowing your life purpose. And there's so many people, like the numerology, the astrology, the hand analysis, even just, the soul purpose work, or, talking to an intuitive, or finding a life coach. Like if you are not in the place in your life where I'm living what I should be living, or even if you are living what you are living, like, you're on purpose, but you just need a little tweaking to kind of get a little bit more in the right path, maybe. That's my goal, to help as many people and give them as many tools as we can do. So if the hand analysis is what's calling to you, then reach out to Jayne for sure, and just look at the science of it, let her explain it, get an analysis done, do whatever you can. I'm kind of with you, Jayne. Like, I read the books, I did all the work. I'm like, what do I do now? Like, how do I really get to my life now? Like, what am I supposed to be doing? What is this that I feel like I'm missing? And it's so empowering once you find it.
Well, the world is waiting for us to fulfill our purpose. They need you.
Yes.
So it's not just you.
Everybody. So that's what I'm saying. When I want everybody who hears this message to know that you're being called. Like, that's the one thing that I'm noticing right now, is that you're being called in a bigger way than you've ever been before.
Yeah.
So now's the time to start taking action. So Thank you, Jayne, for being here. It was so fun for me. Like, I'm so fascinated with all the different modalities. So I appreciate you so much being here. I don't think there's any other questions. I don't see anything in chat. So with that, we'll wrap it up. And again, just deepest gratitude. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You asked some great questions. It was really fun. And I just love sharing this amazing modality. So I really have great appreciation for you, Jennifer. And thanks everybody for showing up. It was really good to see you.
Fun. All right. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.